Let him finish.
Now, you said that men aren't allowed to have a position.
I said men shouldn't
On what?
have a position on anything about women's fertility.
Why?
Because it's the woman's just like decision to have a child whenever she wants to have the child.
Hold on.
That has nothing to do with fertility.
You need a better, so men can't have opinions on
No.
this?
No. I said that if a woman wants to have a kid at 35, why does that make her like what did that statistic do? Like what
Hold
prevalence
on.
was that
Lucas is
statistic?
not making the claim that women are barred from having children.
He said that he was just pointing out an objective fact.
Right.
Okay,
and
cool.
To that, you said men should not even be able to have a conversation.
Whoa. That's not.
You think I'm misrepresenting what you said?
I think you are completely misrepresenting what I
You're
said.
not allowed to have an opinion on this.
I think that I made a joke and I said I hope your mom doesn't like you, and we've been doing a lot of satire tonight because I know that you and Andrew have both been doing a lot of that.
Throw out a statement.
No, but
and then just be like, oh, it's a show.
no, I do think that men should not have opinions about what happens with a woman's body, including growing a child.
Why?
I do think that because they don't have any, because other than the sperm, they don't grow the baby themselves. They're not the ones who are. Men can have children until they are literally on their deathbed. Women only have a certain amount of time, sure, till menopause.
Let me just go ahead and grant to you that in the scenario I'm about to give you, this is a man who's not even involved in the woman's life, doesn't even know her. Explain to me why the man can't have an opinion on, for example, the fact that women have a kind of narrow fertility window, and I'll even bring it here because I think this is where you're going. Why can't men have an opinion on abortion?
No, I would like to respond to both of those points. I think that you are taking it as I don't think that men should have an opinion at all, and I think it's because they're using it in a condescending way.
I think that men have that came out of you.
Yes, absolutely. I think that we're like, I don't want this to get aggressive here because I'm really not trying to be.
Not aggressive.
So I think that what I was trying to say is that I think that the way that it was worded was really kind of pushing a point that there is a point where a woman is not valuable anymore, and that is what that statistic was trying to give me. I don't think.
Sure.
No, please just let me finish, because if I'm going to let you finish, like, please just allow me to.
But I'm the host, so.
Okay, sure. No, go ahead, babe. That's okay. That's okay.
So here's the issue. Here's the issue is that. So you're bringing it back to what he said. I'll just go ahead and grant that you think what he said is totally objectionable. You then made a statement saying men should, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, men should not have opinions on this.
On a woman's body and what happens in it.
Okay, so that is your position.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I stand by that.
You're not joking.
No.
It's not a joke. Okay, so let's explore that. When you say men are not allowed to have an opinion on these topics, why?
I think that you are allowed to have I think that you are allowed to study facts. I think that there's lots of male doctors who study fertility, and that's a very different thing. But when it comes to some random guy who really doesn't know a whole lot about the subject, and he's over here telling me that like my value decreases after 35 because I can't have a kid anymore, like that just rubs me the wrong way. Well, I guess. No, please, because if I interpreted that wrong, then I will 100% say that. Like, I will be wrong. That's okay. I'm okay with being wrong.
That's totally cool.
Yeah.
Let's just say he's in favor of killing puppies. I don't give a fuck what he said. I'm exploring your claim now, which was, and here, I'll just bring it to the ultimate conclusion. Is your position that men should not have an opinion on abortion?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, why?
Because the man isn't the one who is deciding whether or not to grow the child. The man doesn't have any really, after the insemination, the man has no responsibility to care for that child, to raise that child, or to not do those things.
He needs to be a part of that.
If he wants to be
He's forced to.
No, if that's the situation, then that is a conversation between you and your partner.
Okay.
Who am I to tell you what you think?
I get it. Let me grant the argument to you that because it's your body, nobody should have the ability.
You just said your body, my choice, but okay.
No, he was joking. I'm pretty sure. I think he was joking.
He was joking. Go ahead, Andrew.
It wasn't a joke. I think that men should be allowed to weigh in on abortion. Absolutely.
Or at least be.
And not only do I think so, I'm going to give you a counter argument now, and I'd like to actually hear what you have to say about this. Men can be drafted and sent to war. Women can vote to send them to war, but cannot be drafted. Stop talking and let me finish my point. Women can vote to send men to war and cannot themselves be drafted to go to that war. So that stop talking. I just let all of you spurg the fuck out for like 5 minutes and didn't say anything. At least let me make the argument. Okay? Because women can vote to send men to war and they themselves cannot be drafted for a war, that means that it's men's body and not their choice. It's the same exact fucking logic. Same logic.
But no, it's
Women
not.
didn't
Not at
make those
all.
rules. What
Women
are you
didn't
on
make
about?
those rules, and it's the men making the rules about the women's bodies. The men made the rules about who gets drafted. They don't want women in
The
war.
men in
Well,
charge. not-
let us
Seriously.
no, let's
talk about it. This is a really this is a great conversation to
okay,
have.
great. Then let's use
I know lots of women who want to be in the military, but
then
they're
let's
not allowed
use
to have
that
to do it. They
line.
have to-
Let's use that line of logic then. Because men decided it, therefore it's okay. Well, then men decided you can't have abortions, therefore it's okay.
That's not what I said.
We're just saying-
That is what you said. So listen, I'm gonna. Here's your counter syllogism. I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give you your whole syllogism. Premise 1: a person's body is individualized to themselves. Premise 2: because a person's body is individualized to themselves, nobody should be able to tell another person what they can or can't do with their body. Right? Conclusion: men should not be able to tell women that they can't have abortions because it's not their body. That is your syllogism, right?
Yes, I don't think the men.
Then I'm going to give you. Just stop. I just gave you the syllogism. You know, I'm giving you your position correctly because you just agreed I was. So I'll give you the counter syllogism. Premise 1: men, right, would be individuals in charge of their body, just like your first premise. Premise 2: they should have complete and total autonomy over it because it's theirs. Conclusion: women should never be allowed to vote to send men to war if they cannot themselves be drafted because they now have command over somebody else's body, correct?
Yes, I agree.
Now-
I agree.
Now
with
hang
that.
on. Now that you agree with all that, your counter argument to this was that, but men made those rules. If that is the counter argument, and because men made those rules, therefore those rules are just, then my counter argument to you is that
The men made those rules.
yeah,
so
you
that's
got to
why
stop
it's not a
spurting the
woman
fuck
draft.
out when I'm like almost done, and then you can make your response. Then you can, I swear you can make a response. I'm not going to stop you.
Oh, you're
All I wanted to do was make sure you understood my position. I understood yours. We now understand.
Your attention is actually
You're still
amazing, but I've
spurging.
been
You're
very,
still
very
spurging out.
respectful
You're
since the
still
very
spurging out. Just calm down. Calm
you're
down,
spitting out.
and we can have the conversation. Just ladies, calm down. Calm down.
You calm down.
So anyway, back to where I was. If it is not your argument that because men made those rules, therefore it's just, then what is your argument for why women should be able to vote to send men to war?
we never said.
I
it was
never
just.
said that men should have to be sent to war. I don't think anyone should have to be drafted. I don't think that is just at all. I
So
think
no
that you should
draft.
join the military upon your own volition.
Yeah,
I've
okay.
never said that. I don't think anyone should have to
So-
have anything about their lives decided for
So
them.
your answer is to abolish the draft.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
if there was a foreign enemy, like let's say China, who was going to invade the United States, and you needed soldiers very, very, very quickly, you'd think the government should not be allowed to draft its population to defend.
I think
You're complaining about
No, no,
men
no.
being drafted.
I
Now you're
think-
saying we need men. To
I
be
think
drafted.
that ideally we live in a country where our governments don't get into that kind of like
Yeah.
what's the word? I ideally because you're bringing up a hypothetical scenario as well. So if I can
I mean,
bring
it's
my
happened
hypothetical
though.
scenario
It's
in-
happened. The United States has been attacked by foreign entities.
Okay, yeah, but when have they actually been on American soil?
They attacked Hawaii, the Japanese, in World
Well,
War II.
that was literally like 60 years ago.
It was
Yeah, but that was okay.
Exactly. That was
All I said to you was there's examples of this having happened already, and you're like, but that was 50 years. So what? So what? So what if it's 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years? Who cares? Why would that matter?
years ago. Does that not matter?
What?
You're literally.
Yeah, no, because no, you know what's so funny that you were bringing up those points about what was it called, the term that you used about the arguments, and he's just bringing up women voting that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but all of a sudden it's a good point when he says it. I don't know. I think that this conversation needs to come to an end because we're clearly not going to agree. I don't think that anybody, man or woman, should have any government control over anything that they do, whether it comes to their bodies, their health.
I mean, it's really interesting that I think it's really interesting that every time we get to the point where we test your logic, you want to shut the conversation down. It's like I have this opinion, Andrew, and what I think is what. Okay, well, let me logically test this opinion to see if it's sound. Let me logically test your argument to see if it's sound. And you're like, no, I think we better shut the conversation down.
I said that the logical argument that you made and then the second conclusion that you made are true. I don't think that men should be drafted. I don't think that the government should have control over women's bodies.
But that is what we're testing now, whether or not you actually think men or women should not be drafted. That's the next claim we're testing.
That anyone should be drafted.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going.
We live in a country where people are patriotic and they want to fight for this country. And that if there should be a war where there is a foreign enemy who is attacking us, that we have enough people, which by the way, we already do because there's tons of benefits in the military. You get all these different benefits. Lots of people are in the military because they want to be in the military. I am not against the military. I am very for this country. I'm very for this government.
Yeah. So can you repeat back the question I actually asked you?
You asked me if we should have a draft if there is to be a someone invading our country.
Yeah.
And we need military people.
Yeah.
I think that no, there shouldn't be. And if there is, then it should be open to all genders. I don't think it should just be men.
Yeah, but if that was the case, then I'm
just saying that something is.
Wait, yo. You gotta let. He started talking. You had.
Sorry.
You were just let him talk.
Absolutely, yeah.
So anyway, your first claim is no, right? No, they just shouldn't be able to draft the citizenry in order to protect the country, right?
Mm-hmm. And if they do,
no, not if they do. They shouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the claim, is that they should not. So if you had an enemy who was invading, who said, for instance, that their intended purpose was to enslave all of the women of the United States and put them in camps to do essay to them all day long, like the Japanese did in Nanking, for instance, right? Do you think that then the American government should draft the citizenry of the nation in order to protect the women?
I think that then at that point, the American people would join the military by their own
I have a
ordinance.
question.
Yeah, let us assume that they're not, though.
Well, why are we assuming that they're not?
Because it's baked into the hypothetical to test your logic. It's baked into the hypothetical test your logic because it's baked into the hypothetical test your logic. Because it's based in the it's baked into the hypothetical test your logic. That's why.
Andrew, do you think in that scenario?
It doesn't matter what I think. What I think has nothing to do with your position. You don't need my position to know your position. It's not necessary. I promise. You don't need to know what I think to know what you think.
Before we do get any kind of, because I am trying not to, obviously this is a hypothetical we're talking about. I do want to bring up the fact that in the beginning of this episode, they did talk about how Andrew and Brian would be playing devil's advocate, and that is the whole point, is to get us to have opinions. So I would like us to not get angry at Andrew, because these might not even be things that he believes in. This is just because he wants to get my opinion. So before we get angry, I just want to say that I think that it is a good point to bring up, to talk about in these situations, if something would or would not be to happen. I think that if that was the situation, that if there was going to be a draft, it should not be limited to only men, because that is discrimination. It should be to everyone.
But now you've switched the argument. So backing,
because you're forcing me to.
I'm not forcing you to. I'm not. Listen, I'm not forcing.
I don't think that there should be a draft.
Would you just calm down? I'm not forcing you to. I'm trying to show you, right? If you say the answer is there should not be a draft, then is it not the entailment of that if the United States was attacked by a foreign entity who wanted to essay all of the women who were here and made that their stated goal, that under your logic then we would not be able to draft any of the men in order to protect the country from this enemy? That would be the entailment, right?
I think that there would have to be some sort of mandate made. I am not.
That would be a draft, right?
Okay, where does is that in the Constitution?
No.
Or is that one of our amendments that there's a draft? No. Where does that come from? Because just remind the audience really quick.
I would have to pull up the exact details, but no, it's not a constitutional amendment.
If it's something that is not written directly in our Constitution or our Bill of Rights, then that can be changed by the Supreme Court, by the Congress, by the President. So if we were inevitably going to be in a war where it is a world war, where there is foreign enemies attacking us, I think that our government could probably change a few rules around.
To say what, though?
to say that if we need to fight for our country, then we should.
Okay,
And I
then
think
that would be a draft then. So that negates your position that there should never be a
You're
draft.
forcing me into a corner here. I don't know
I'm
what more you
testing
want
your,
me to
well,
say.
listen, I just want you to understand. I'm not trying to trick you. I'm trying to show you something important.
I feel kind of like
I'm
just
trying to show you
confused.
something super important. I'm just walking you through when somebody says, I think this shouldn't be the case, right? And
This
I go,
shouldn't be the case right now in this country right now where there's
okay,
no
I
inmate.
know. But if you say, I think X thing shouldn't be the case, I go, okay, that's fair, right? Why? You go, well, because of these reasons. And I say, okay, well, let me test those reasons with a scenario, right? And see if those reasons hold up. So in this case, you say, nobody should ever get drafted. That ought never happen. And I say, okay, but what about in the scenario where we're attacked by a foreign entity, wants to SA everything, we don't have enough troops, right? Should we do it then? You say yes. Well, then now I know that you do believe in a draft just under certain conditionals, right?
Well, you just said there's not going to be enough military. So what do you want me to say? Let my country burn? Is that what you want me to say?
Well, that would be either let the country burn or have a draft, right?
So where did this draft come in? Because I thought we were talking about something completely. We're talking
Well,
about
because
women's rights.
I'll explain it. It's because we're talking about
Women's rights has nothing to do with.
It's because
women's
we're
rights
talking
has
about
nothing to
bodily
do with-
autonomy. It's because we're talking about bodily autonomy. That's where the draft came from. That's why we're talking about it. That's why it's super important. That's why it's super important. Because if you can say here's
Yeah, how did we get here?
stop. Because if you can say here's a realistic. If you can say, here's a realistic scenario in which I would suspend your bodily autonomy based on my personal safety, right? Which is what we're talking about. And we just walked through it and you said you would do it. You literally said you would do that.
I do think that, but how does that relate to abortion? Because there's no situation in which that I think that a man should have a right over a woman's
Right,
abortion.
except that here's
No,
the
there's no except.
What if it's
What are you talking
How do you
about?
know? How do you know? You won't even let me give you the counter argument.
have a right over that though?
You won't even let me give you the counter argument.
You're
You're just spurging. All right, when you guys are done spurging, let me know. Go
Okay,
ahead.
but it's still a child being.
If
Right.
that man, you know what? No, here's the thing. If that man wants to go ahead and pay for that kid for the rest of his damn life, then so be it. But that's why it's choice.
Yeah.
Choice means that you can have the right to choose. Choice does not mean that everyone has to get an abortion. That's literally not what that means. It means that if you want to get one, you can. And if you don't want to get one, you don't have to.
So what about when a woman has a baby, but the dad doesn't want the baby? Should he have the option to opt out of being a parent like a mother does?
No,
The mother doesn't have that option. She has to. The baby's born. The baby's not born.
She has the option to opt out.
And the mother can't give it up for adoption. There's many different policies around the country where you can leave it at the
But don't
fire
you
station,
think-
you can leave it
don't
at the
you-
police station.
Women can.
Women can.
Father.
Well, no, if the woman leaves it, how are they going to know who's the father?
No, but if the woman wants to keep it, the father cannot escape his.
I disagree. You can go to the court. You can win it.
Wait, hold on.
You can
No,
win a
wait.
court
I want
case.
this back
I need
and
to
forth
pee.
here.
I'm going to let her
Okay, you go
talk.
pee. Go ahead. I'll have the back and forth with you. So just to be clear, could you repeat that? So I said, well, what if the mom wants to keep the child and she actually goes through with the pregnancy and then shut up back there and she has
It's
the
like
kid.
it's like fucking
Right.
impossible.
Okay.
It's like impossible to
father
even discuss this with
doesn't
him.
want
Every
to-
time I get
Never
close,
has the option to opt out.
bam.
So can you repeat what you said?
We goalpost
should want a
shift,
condom.
immediate.
Okay. Now, this is an interesting argument to me. Can't we just say the same thing to women when it comes to abortion?
Yeah, but they can get an abortion. Men
Yeah, but
I
you
think
could have
that's his
had him wear a
point.
condom, or you could have been on birth
Yeah,
control.
but there's nothing wrong with getting an abortion.
But then
Let me explore that also.
Wow.
At what is there? Do you think there should be a cutoff?
There isn't there? Yeah.
No. Do you think there should be? A
Yeah,
cutoff?
definitely.
When's the cutoff?
I can't remember. I don't know the.
What do you mean? When do you think is right?
I haven't looked at how the fetus develops. I don't know the specific month. I think. Is it 24 weeks? I'm not sure.
Something like that.
but you think there is one. So
I think there should be a cutoff. Yeah.
so from that point, what do you think, Brian?
What do you mean?
Like, because you're saying if the cutoff point to say I don't know what it is either, but if it's 24 weeks, then a father should be able to opt out up to those 24 weeks.
I don't. Would you?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
What's just interesting? So, like, you're saying that, well, for men should keep their legs closed. But if we were to make that same argument when it came
About
to
you
women
should've
wanting
kept
to get
your legs
abortions, you'd find that incredibly objectionable.
Men should keep their legs closed because they don't have a choice. Women have a choice.
Oh, wait, men don't have a choice.
Nope.
I thought you
that's-
were pro-choice.
Yeah, but
Oh, so women can have choices. Women can.
I think
hold on,
most-
stop. women can escape from responsibility, but men can't.
It's not about escaping from
What do you
responsibility.
mean? Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
If there's a government that says you can't have an abortion and women want to get an abortion and you say
Well,
you get
fuck
the
living
abortion,
somewhere like that.
well, cool. But you would be escaping from the responsibility of having to go through with the pregnancy, despite your wishes not to.
Maybe let's rephrase the terminology. Let's think about the word abortion. Say it's not actually aborting a fetus or a baby or whatever you want to call it. A woman is aborting her parental responsibility. Shouldn't a father also have that opportunity to abort his responsibility to that child?
I don't know, but I think a lot of women, when they're about to have an abortion, do, or considering it, that, I mean, I don't know, but I think they do talk to their partners usually and get their opinion from people I know who've had abortions. They've not just made that decision.
I think also it's not like work.
Nope. Okay, so here, let me ask you this. What do you think about men who don't take care of their kids? Are they deadbeat dads?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
the kid who's alive, the kid who's
Yeah.
breathing and alive,
Yes,
yeah, they're
understood.
deadbeats.
Do women who abort their children, are they murderers?
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
I
not
think that you
murderers,
take
but they're
abortion way too
deadbeat
lightly.
moms.
Every woman who gets an abortion does not take it lightly. It is not a light task.
Zip it.
they'd
I'm
be
having
worse
this
if
here.
they had the kid when they're not in a good position.
So women who get abortions, are they deadbeat moms?
No.
Okay, so just to be clear, a father who just doesn't want to be financially involved or parentally involved, deadbeat. But a woman who literally ends a life, not a
It's not
deadbeat.
life. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can think that, but I.
The value here is
What's
the
What do you
premise.
think is the cutoff? Like, do you believe there's a cutoff, or
I'm not a doctor, and neither are
what's
you.
your opinion?
My opinion is that as soon as okay, listen, there is probably a mark.
Up until birth?
I don't think it's up until birth. I think that
No,
there's
what do you
probably.
think?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
What point here?
heartbeat.
Do you think?
Probably. I don't. That sounds about right to me.
Yeah, so okay, at what point should a woman not be able to get an abortion?
Probably when there is some sort of heartbeat, when there's a formation of an actual what looks like a fetus in the womb. I think that when there's simply a clump of cells, I think that also we're talking about this a little bit too
you're a
lightly.
clump of cells.
Well, sure, everybody is, but
I'd be able to murder you.
no, but this is a different story. And I understand that you're playing devil's advocate here, but I think that there's also something.
Yes.
And if you're not, then maybe you can have your opinion and that's fine. But at the end of the day, abortion is not something that anybody should take lightly. It is a very, very difficult thing. And it's a medical procedure. It is someone doing surgery on the inside of your fucking womb.
Or pill.
That it is the woman come out of that, they don't feel good about it. They're not like, oh, look, just got my abortion. But let me also say one more thing and then I'll shut up if that's what you want.
Go ahead.
I think that the legislature that wants to ban abortions also wants to ban contraceptive care. And I think that
That's
like
fake news.
no, it's not. No, it's
Everything Trump
not.
says is fake news. What you
It's-
remember?
Yeah, literally what?
But good.
No, but we shouldn't ban contraceptive. So if you don't want someone to have an abortion, then they should have access to a plan B. If you don't want a woman to have a plan B, they should have access to birth
Well,
control.
then why
They should
don't
have
you
access to condom.
explain to me why it was then that there was far less babies born out of wedlock before we ever had any contraception?
Probably because of
No, not because what?
No,
I'm not supposed to say that word.
That would be the opposite. That would literally be the opposite. So I ask you the question: why were less babies born out of wedlock? Right,
Oh, less.
and you say because of grape. What? That would be the opposite. That would mean more babies would be born out of
more.
wedlock. Like, what are you talking about?
More.
Wait, there's a lot to
This
get
isn't
through.
about dating anymore. This is
Yeah,
about
there's a lot to get
bullshit.
through. Just the final question on this, though.
Yeah, no, it all involves dating. What are you talking? Like these conversations are happening across the United States between men and women everywhere. Of course, this is related to dating. Political leanings related to dating. How your personality is related to dating. What you think about issues related about dating. If men and women think differently than each other is related to dating, it's all dating related.
what are you saying, Brian?
Brian, baby.
Brian, baby.
Okay, so final question on this, then we're going to move it forward immediately. So, do you guys think that men should pay child support before the child is born?
No.
No, only if it's for medical expenses. I do.
Is that a thing?
Medical
I don't
expenses, yeah.
know.
No, it's
Yeah,
not a
that's it.
thing. But you think that, like the woman, she's definitely going to have the kid. Do you think men should start? There's a lot of expenses even prior to the child being born, medical expenses.
Yeah.
Should men have to pay child support before the child is even born.
Okay, well, have to is a strong term because usually child support is depending on a court case. So there is usually that a woman will take a man to court. So are you saying that you think that a man should
We're asking
morally-
about the moral imperative.
Okay, do I think that a man should I think that if a man and a woman are having a child together, that they should both foot those bills themselves together. Do I think that a man should pay for the whole thing? Absolutely not.
So
the woman is also paying for it.
You're answering a question that wasn't even asked.
What are you talking about then?
He's asking if a man gets a chick knocked up, right? Should he have to pay for the care if she decides to keep the baby clear up through the pregnancy?
I think that should be taken to court.
Just medical expenses.
I think it should be taken to
Yeah,
court.
I'm
I think
asking
that
about the
man
moral
wants to
imperative.
pay
I'm
for it.
asking
He
about the
wants
moral
it.
imperative. The moral imperative.
Not to the mother.
Brian is
medical
speaking.
expenses.
Shut up.
Oh my God. So I
Got
don't
him.
understand. I don't understand your position of
What color
it
is
should
your
be-
crystal?
It should be brought to court.
Because all child support cases, that doesn't come out of thin air. The man has to pay a certain amount of money if it's brought to court, and the judge decides that, that
Right,
this man
but
owes a
like-
certain amount of money.
If the child is actually his, he's going to be forced to pay child
There,
support.
I think that there's different
not
situations.
a scenario. There's not a scenario where a woman brings a man to court over child support and paternity is established that he's going to be able to escape from 18 plus
So then
years.
he shouldn't have gotten a woman pregnant. That's my opinion.
And- oh my God, this is, oh, jeez. Okay.
I think you should have used the damn condom then, and she should have been on birth
But-
control.
Okay. You,
What if the condom rips? That's happening.
Then take a plan B. I'm so sick of you
The
people.
plan B fell
so
for me.
can't we
Plan B
just
fell.
make the same
What do you mean,
argument?
you people? Why did you say that to her? That was mean. What did you people?
didn't say it to her.
Yeah, you did. You said, then take Plan B. I'm sick of you people. What are you doing? What are you doing?
That's not. You're taking my words out of context.
Look,
all
I'm
respect,
lightening. I'm trying to
Plan B did not
lighten
work
the
for
mood.
me.
Calm down. I'm trying to lighten the mood.
So then what happened? What did you do?
I had surgery.
So there we go. So you think that she's morally wrong for doing that?
Plan B didn't work for me.
How many abortions have you had?
Yeah. How many have you had?
Yeah. How many have you had,
And you,
Brian?
Andrew.
Yeah.
Because we're all talking about hypotheticals here, when in reality,
I
do you
haven't
know
had-
a woman
I
is
haven't
wrong
had
for that?
any.
It's not a fucking easy
Yeah, I
task.
haven't had any. To answer your question,
So then why are you arguing for people who have been irresponsible?
I haven't murdered anybody either. Should I not argue against
murder.
murderers? I don't get it. Like, oh, Andrew's never murdered a person, therefore Andrew can't have an opinion on murderers. I don't even understand it.
I have a question. If a woman is and becomes pregnant from it,
Stop using the word.
Sorry,
Just use essay.
sorry.
Can you just use essay? Hang on. Can you just
if a
use
woman is
essay?
essayed-
Yeah.
If a woman is essayed and becomes pregnant from it,
Mm-hmm.
and she terminates that pregnancy, and which becomes a murder charge, do you think that she has a right to kill her?
Now,
Sorry.
I'm going to answer your
I-
question. I'm going to answer your question directly, but I want a promise from you after
Sorry,
I answer
I
it.
apologize.
Hang on.
I'm going to censor
hang
that
on.
from now
hang
on.
on. Hang on. I'm going to answer
God,
your
let him fucking talk. Holy shit.
I'm going to answer your question directly, but I want to promise that after I give you the answer, you let me give an explanation without spurging the fuck out. You promise? I want you to say I promise.
I promise.
All right. So the answer is yes. She should carry the pregnancy to term. And here's my reasoning for why. So the idea here is that if you are SA'd, are you allowed to go home and kill one of your other children? The answer to that, hang on, before you fucking go fucking ballistic, calm the fuck down and just listen, okay? You're not allowed to go home and kill one of your other children. Why? Because you're murdering a life. Because you are SA'd does not then give you the right to kill somebody else just because you're SA'd. That makes no sense. So the same logic would be applied here. You don't believe this is a human life, so it's always justified. However, I do believe it's a human life. So what you're actually saying to me is, Andrew, because I was SA'd, do I now have permission to murder? And the answer is no, of course not.
We don't see it as murder.
I'm really disappointed, Andrew, because you seem like a really logical guy, and this is just it's just disappointing, frankly.
Well, it's disappointing. Listen,
It's not disappointing to me. It's
saying
not
that you're disappointed by an argument but not refuting the argument is what's fucking disappointing.
Because there's nothing that I can say that you're going to tell me that I'm blowing up. You're going to tell me that I am making illogical arguments. My rebuttal
I
is my
won't.
rebuttal.
What I'll do is
no.
I'll listen carefully to your argument. I'll think about it. I'll conditionalize it. I'll see if it makes sense or doesn't make sense, and I'll either give you a counter argument or I'll agree with you, like
So
I've been doing the whole night.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
May I?
Yeah.
Do you trust a doctor? Okay, if you get cancer, do you trust a doctor to cure that cancer?
Yeah.
Okay, if you break a bone, do you trust that doctor to fix your bone and to get you back on your feet or whatever it is?
Sure.
Okay, so if a doctor has the same moral imperative to cure your cancer and to fix a bone, and they also are able to terminate a pregnancy, why do you think that that is now all of a sudden something completely different? It's different than a surgery.
Well, so you're making a category here. I'll explain. So I agree with you. A doctor can terminate a pregnancy, not that he ought to do so. So what we're talking about here is a moral imperative about whether a doctor should or should not do this. Like, for instance, you agree with me that a doctor could cut off your arm right now, right?
Yeah, but they wouldn't.
Hang on,
the same way
hang on. You agree with me that they could, right? Remember how I just answered yes or no to every question you asked?
They
Yes,
won't.
they could. But should they?
To the panel or not?
Should they?
Should they what?
Should they cut off your arm? Even though they can.
Obviously, they shouldn't. That's not part of their
Obviously,
medical.
they shouldn't. So you asking me the question of, can a doctor do this? My answer is, of course, they can do it. But should they do it? They can cut off your arm, but should they cut off your arm?
Do like anything else. I think that you're misunderstanding. Have you actually like tracked what it's like? You have kids yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you watched through your wife's pregnancies, if there was multiple, how that child grew,
Yeah.
right? So there's a certain point where that child is quite literally a clump of cells about that big. I'm not saying that a baby, that a kid
But
who is in
are
their,
you aware that all scientists consider that human life? All.
so is a plant. Then so is everything.
Well, a
You
plant
eat
is plant life. I agree.
steak. Is
Yeah,
that? is that
I
all
agree that I agree
murder?
that I killed the cow. Yeah, I agree.
But that's not murder in your books because it's not a human
no,
person.
because
Like,
I don't give
no, a fetus isn't a human.
I don't give animals the same moral consideration I give humans, but I still consider them animals.
So you consider humans animals. Humans are animals. Homo
Humans
sapiens.
are Homo
but I
sapiens
give
are
moral I give moral consideration to the category of animal that is human being, and I do not give moral consideration to the category that is not human being. So therefore, I eat cows. Therefore, I go out during hunting season and blast a deer in the fucking brain and watch his brain go everywhere. And I go out there and I cut his ass up and I munch his ass down. And he's delicious. He's delicious. And I can't wait to do it again the next year. I have no moral consideration for a fucking deer. It has nothing to do with the human category. Nothing.
All right, make your thing, and then I'm moving this.
Yeah, I would like to move this on.
I don't know how helpful it is, but I see both sides. Like, honestly, like, and I maybe, again, it's not helpful. I definitely see as a female having that option to abort. Like, let's say if it is an SA situation, I totally, like, of course, like, I'm a female. Like, I know so many women in my life that have had to do that. Like, so, but also I see your side as well, how you can feel passionate about how a fetus is still a life, and like I can see that.
And by the way, that's exactly what I'm doing November 15th.
So I know that's not helpful, but I just want to say
November
that I see
15th,
both
I am
sides,
not
and I think
streaming
that you both have good
until,
points.
well,
Thank you.
it'll probably
Yeah.
be pretty early, but
Just don't get pregnant if you
I'll
don't.
probably
well,
be
that's
streaming
another thing too. Is if a
November
man
15th.
wants a
I was gonna
baby
say,
so
until I
bad, he
come
should have
home
a
with
baby with
deer,
a woman
but
who
that'll
wants to
probably
have that
happen
baby
pretty
too.
fast.
Yeah,
That's
but
what-
if
That'll probably
you
happen
don't
pretty
want to
fast.
have a baby, then keep your legs closed or be on birth control or make him wear a condom.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Don't get
Yeah,
an abortion
absolutely.
like that, though.
Don't let it get to that point, but that's why
Yeah.
contraceptives should be absolutely available.
Because
and
like
pushed
right now, women are
Next
just
topic.
having sex.
Wait,
like,
he's moving.
crazy.
Brian's moving it on. Brian's moving it on.
You have a lot of chats. There's a backlog, so don't
Yay.
don't derail. Nope, nope,
No, we're
nope.
nope.
Just an FYI, those beauty standards are made by other women. Men don't give jack squat about your looks. Women bring other women down
It's so funny that they said that.
That's a lie.
so that they can get the upper hand in the dating market.
That's crazy.
We believe you. We believe you that men don't care about looks. We believe you.
Yes, Gerald donated $200. Babe, listen. Babe,
Are you talking to me?
babe. Get in the crystal, babe. You're speaking at 1,000 prattles per minute, babe.
1,000
Babe. Listen, babe. Every once in a while, breath, babe. Your brain needs oxygen, babe.
I hope that he was talking about me.
Yeah, I think so.
Love you.
babe.
Actually,
I got
what we're going to do, because this panel definitely needs it,
Yeah.
for 15 minutes, we're going to do a $69 roast session because
Ooh.
this panel desperately needs it for like a period. So if you want, I'll load the TTS to 69 here. Let me get that done here. really quick.
And by the way, I'm not upset about the
Good idea, actually.
I'm not upset about the exchanges, right? I'm glad you guys are participating in it.
Bottle of champagne, I'll buy.
Me too. And I apologize if I seem like I got a little bit
don't have to
like heated
apologize.
about it, but I just think that it's important that we have these
never
discussions.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize.
He's
The only thing you have to apologize on, the only thing you have to
Thank you.
apologize for is the no counter argument. That's the only thing you got to apologize for. Other than that, you don't got to apologize for nothing.
I think it's just because I got tired.
Andrew.
I'm sick of it.
Nope.